Hello and welcome to Goa 365 Straightforward. Today we have with us a youth who has breached the boundaries of what women generally think is a very hard task. While a lot of women have faced professional issues of getting into fields such as aviation and other prominent positions, today we have with us Muskaan, who has kind of broken all sorts of norms by getting her aviation license at a young age of 22. Welcome to the show, Muskaan. We are so glad to have you on our show today. Okay, so basically to start off, I would just like to ask you of what motivated you to get into this field of aviation, which a lot of people don't easily get into.
So the motivation behind getting into this field was my dad.
Okay.
Like after the 12th, I didn't really have any set goals as to what I wanted to do. So we were exploring a lot of options, and my dad just comes up to me and he says, "Why don't you become a pilot?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And that's basically how it started.
Okay, but after your 12th, what exactly was the path for you to land into aviation? Because a lot of people don't really know as in how to become a pilot. It's kind of like a very niche kind of professional job that people don't usually know about. So how did you move ahead into that line?
So basically, even we didn't know anything about the aviation field because I don't have any aviation background. So when my dad expressed the interest that he wanted me to become a pilot, we went and met a few pilots and we talked to them about how the field is and what it's like and what do you have to do to basically get in. So we got a lot of information, and the best part was that we joined a cadet program. So at that time I joined the Jet Airways cadet program.
Okay.
They have like around 4 interviews, and I cleared those 4 interviews and my medical, but sadly because of Corona, Jet shut down just before I was supposed to leave.
But was that kind of like a deal breaker for you when COVID hit and you realized all tourism, it was like in a span of a month, tourism around the world stopped and airlines was one of the worst hit industries. So at that point, did you ever doubt saying maybe I should not pursue this? Or
when COVID started, I was like 1/4 through with my program, and already I had invested a lot in it. So it's like I couldn't really go back on that. But yeah, it was sort of like it was we were all concerned about what is going to happen. At that time, it was not that bad. We all thought it was just a normal disease, and it would go
go away soon.
Reside after a few months, but that didn't happen. So yeah, because of COVID, a lot of problems arised. Because of COVID, my course, which is generally 1 or 2 years max, took 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would have become a pilot much sooner then.
Much sooner.
Okay, but basically when you got, how long did it take you overall after you finished your 12th? How long did it take you to finish?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and financially, it's quite well known that becoming a pilot is very financially, it's a big burden.
It really is. So basically for my course, if I can talk about that.
Yeah, sure you can.
So my course, I had to pay around 29 lakhs for just my CPL license.
Okay.
Plus additional charges and so it's very expensive. If anyone is thinking of getting into the aviation field, they have to take this into account that it's going to be very pricey.
I see. But is there any sort of assistance from any sort of entity or government?
You get loans. You get loans like education loans, but again it's a really hefty loan.
Okay. But now since you're one of the youngest girls to get into this kind of field, what is one of the major challenges that you faced, being a girl into this field where generally majority of it is kind of dominated by men?
Yeah.
So being a woman, how was your journey in getting a license?
So basically when you're a girl, even if you see a woman driving, it's you always assume that no, she's a bad driver because she's a lady. I'm pretty sure everyone just it's a stigma.
Yeah.
It's just set in people's mind. So yeah, so when you're a female in such a male-dominated field, especially when you're flying, you have to work twice as hard to prove yourself. You need to hone your skills, and you really need to get very good at what you do just to prove yourself. Work twice as harder as the men.
Okay, I agree with that. It's very tough. I mean, I've interviewed previous women who have, come out and it's a general thing that women have to work harder to show their worth, and it's kind of, sad. I agree. Okay, so basically now that you have got your license and tourism is kind of coming back on its feet, what is your view of generally get the airline industry right now, as you just got your license, you're still not
Yeah.
into the profession yet. What is your view? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think it is going to be easy for you now to get into the professional side of it?
So right now, I don't think it's going to be that easy because we are it's like the recession period of the airlines because there aren't many jobs, and like even if there are, it's like very hard to get into. Like there are a lot of pilots who are sitting at home with a CPL license, with an ATPL license, with a rating of a particular aircraft. So there's like a lot of competition and not that many jobs. But hopefully now there are 2 more airlines that have come into, like Akasa Air and Jet Airways have come back. So that brings hope for us that maybe there is hope.
So do you plan on being a domestic pilot or maybe moving on international?
No, obviously international, yes. Obviously I'm going to start with domestic and then hopefully international.
Okay. So what was your, what did your parents, what do you say, can't find the right word, your parents support towards you in your entire journey? Was there a period where like they felt like maybe we are pushing our daughter a bit too hard, or was it like they were completely supportive, like
No.
they let you have your freedom?
With my parents, it's always been 100% of their support. Like I couldn't have done this without them. They've always been behind me and always given me whatever I've needed, like may that be support or financially, emotionally. Like they've always been my pillars, and I think what I am today is because of them.
Okay. Now when you were in your academy training, what was the major hurdle in the academy? Like was it the ground level training where you'll have classes, or was it the actual flying in, like you'll have to complete a certain number of hours in the air, right?
Yeah.
So what was the hardest challenge during that period?
So basically our exams aren't really related to the academy. We have to give them separately to the government. The most the most hard obstacle would be the flying, obviously, because it's not really that easy.
But in India, is it generally like are the training centers really good, as in like you've gone to one in Pune, right?
Yeah.
But around the country, is the system really good enough to keep up with what international levels are?
I mean, internationally, obviously, the standards are a little bit more high when it comes to skills. But when it comes to India, the exams and that part is more tough.
More tough.
Yeah.
Okay. And now that COVID is kind of going away, and now they're saying there's another 4th wave coming, what do you plan to do right now? As in, currently in this situation right now, are you planning on applying, or are you planning to wait it out? And
I've already applied.
Okay,
I've already applied for the vacancies that have come, and I'm also thinking of getting my type rating done and my ATPL license.
What exactly is type rating?
Okay, so there are different kinds of aircrafts, like the bigger aircrafts, like a Airbus 320 and a Boeing 737. So type rating is when you go to learn them, like you have to learn those aircrafts. So you can do that either after you get a job or before.
So they let you train once you secure the job, the airline takes the responsibility of training you on the flight?
Yes, that also happens, and they have vacancies for type rated pilots. That is, you go and get trained on your own and then apply for a job.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, apart from that, now that a lot of people, like a lot of women are coming into the limelight, so how has been that attention? Like a lot of people are, maybe even your neighborhood, and like people in your academy itself, like what is the reaction like when you achieve, like you're just 22, it's a very young age to achieve something as big as this, so what was the reaction from your surrounding?
I mean, yeah, it's been very overwhelming. I honestly, for me, I didn't think it was such a big deal, but like after looking at the response, it's just very nice to like there are a lot of people who come up to me, like kids especially, and they're like, I also want to become a pilot. I want to become a pilot when I grow up, and I just feel very happy that looking at me, it's gotten into their head that they want to become a pilot, that I have inspired someone. It's very.
But do you think a lot more people should be encouraged, or like told that it is not that hard to achieve, like when they think of getting into the airline industry, or is it really kind of hard and like tough?
So It's not really that hard, honestly. It's not really that hard to achieve. It's just you need a lot of patience when it comes to the airline industry, because it's a very unpredictable industry and you don't know when what would happen. Like when Corona hit, it was a very bad time for us, because there were times when I was sitting at home for 6 months and I didn't know what to do next, because everything was shut. So that was a bad period when it came to emotional health, because it's like you're sitting at home and you don't know, you've invested so much money. And then you have that fear that what if it doesn't happen.
So how much did it really cost you, like from the start till the end, to get your license, like financially to get your license?
I'd say around 35.
That's
If you
pretty
include
expensive.
everything, like including the stay and everything, around 35.
Okay, that's a pretty expensive
Exactly.
profession to get
And
into.
plus, if you want to take your classes separately, the classes are very expensive. I did my studies on my own, because like I learnt on my own. And
But do
gave
these
my
prices
exams.
kind of like, the flight time, the certain number of hours, does it really like vary depending on like, like the fuel prices or like?
It does, yeah, it
So
does.
your education like depends entirely, like it could suddenly increase, suddenly decrease.
Exactly. So fuel inflation that happened when the war started.
Yeah.
So they had to increase our prices because they themselves couldn't cope with, the fuel prices being hiked up. So.
Okay. We'll take a short break and
Yeah.
we'll get back, okay? Please stay with us, we'll take a short break. Okay, welcome back. You are joining us back again with Muskaan Shaikh. Muskaan, welcome back. Okay, so Muskaan, when you said you started out, your parents kind of suggested like, why don't you become a pilot? What was your reaction to becoming a pilot? Like it's something that you thought like, maybe I won't really achieve. It's a very big task and all. So what was running through your mind when you initially considered getting into this field?
So initially when I considered, becoming a pilot, I just thought that maybe I couldn't do it, because come on, it's like flying an airplane is like, it's a big deal. And at the back of my mind, I thought that maybe I wouldn't be able to do it. But my dad always trusted me, and he always told me that you can do anything. Like he's always been that, support behind me. Like every time I waver, I think that I won't be able to do it, they're just there like, no, you can. If anyone can, it's you.
But is it like it's much easier with support, like, your parents especially?
Yes, obviously.
So is it like that, is it harder if you don't really have a support, like, if you were to say, suppose, go out of the norm and like, go against like the general social women, like you, like generally even driving, like women are put down even in driving, like you're a woman, you can't drive. Without, it's kind of a stigma, there's no real basis behind it. So was this something like even in the, training academy, like, when women generally come, they're kind of shunned down because of this?
I mean, yeah, this happens like everywhere, because so basically people just think that women's skills when it comes to motor skills are inferior to men, and this is like, it's just set in everyone's mind that if it's a guy, he can perform certain he has a better skill set than a woman or a girl, and that is not true.
So did you have to show like extra, did you have to work extra hard to so that I can only show my worth, like if I outperform the men, not even being on par, it has to be outperforming them to show that I am capable?
So yeah, I mean, for me, I always had to give my 110%, because it's like, for a guy, if he doesn't perform one day, it's like he's not judged on that. But if you're a girl and you don't perform even for like a day, they'll just judge you based on that performance and be like, no, the first few was just lucky, she got lucky, it's not that good.
Okay, so speaking about academically, so when you finished your 12th, what exactly did you do? Like what was the requirement for you to get into the aviation?
So the most important thing is you have to get your medical done. So we have a thing called class 2 and class 1 medical. So to start your training, you need a class 2 medical, in which they check all sorts of, like they check your body to to see if you're fit to become a pilot. And if you're not fit, then it's like you cannot become a pilot.
So without the first step is the medical.
Yeah,
so if
you
you are
have to
not
get the
fit,
medical
there's
done.
no
No.
way you can this.
You have to get the medical done because you're either too short or there are some problems with your body or your eyesight or something like that, and that makes you unfit. So when it comes to medicals, the airline industry and even the aviation industry is very strict.
Okay.
Like
So-
you have to clear your medicals.
Okay, and thereafter then.
And then you can either do your flying and your studying simultaneously, or you can give your papers first and then join your flying academy. So a lot of people go for classes and finish their their papers and everything, and then come and get their flying done. For me, I did it simultaneously because I didn't really want to take any classes. Again, expensive. So I finished my papers and my flying simultaneously. So for papers, we have like 5 basic DGCA papers. That is meteorology, then technical general. Then we have technical specific, that is about your aircraft, like which aircraft you're going to fly.
Okay.
Like I flew the Cessna 172. So I had to give that paper, the Cessna 172 paper. Then we have the regulations, that is air regulations, rules of the air. And the 5th one is the RT, that is radio telephony. It comes under the Airport Authority of India.
Yeah.
So that is basically an exam about your communication skills. So they'll give you a test wherein they'll give you an emergency and see how you communicate, and then there's an interview.
Okay, so how long does it take to complete the on ground the class, the paper writing? How long does that take?
So basically the papers used to come every 3 months. So you could give all of them together as well,
Okay.
but it's not that easy to complete all of them in one go. But if you did, you could get it in like 3 months.
So shortest time you can do it is in 3 months.
No, I mean shortest time is like you can study whenever and just give the paper.
Okay, so there's no
Yeah,
hard and
no.
fixed rule for that.
Every
Okay.
3 months there would be an exam, but that stopped for Corona. Like after Corona, it was just bad when it comes to papers.
Okay, and then flying in the air, like was it really like a daunting task, like physically, like to complete 200 hours? 200, right?
Yeah.
So 200 hours completing in the air, like was it really a daunting task?
No, I think flying was the best part. Like honestly, the experience of flying is just amazing. It's something I cannot even describe. Like I just fell in love with it. Like when you're flying, it's just I don't know how to express.
I can
but
understand.
yeah.
It must be really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've achieved this, like you're from a minority community, and like generally it's very hard, like getting through all the hurdles, and also basically how has your community really felt about you achieving such heights?
They've been very supportive, and honestly, like when I finished my when I got my license, everyone was just so happy, like more than me and my family. Like the community was happy. Like I used to get so many messages from people saying that we are so proud of you, and it felt really nice. The support was immense.
Okay, now young women, like generally, like they lack a lot of awareness, a lot of motivation. Like if you have a strong family, they obviously get motivated, they have the support. But what would you tell the young generation, like who are still kind of not undecisive about what they want to do? So what would you tell them, like how would you, some few words that you would like?
So like I would just say do what your passion is, like what you like. So that it's like it's not a job, it's just fun. You don't want a vacation. You should have a job that you don't want a break from. It's like you should enjoy what you do.
Enjoy what you do.
And honestly, if you want to become a pilot, there's like nothing stopping you. You can do it. It's not that difficult, and honestly, it's not something that you cannot do. Like if I could do it, anyone can do it.
Okay, that's good. Now that you're moving on into the real world, like you're going into flight. So what is your major fear? Like there's always a fear. Like when I got into journalism, my fear was like whether I'll be able to do it, whether I will be able to convey a message properly. So what is your kind of innate fear? Like am I going to be able to do this properly?
Yeah, so again, the fear stems from the fact that I'm not from an aviation background. So I don't really know a lot about the aviation industry when it comes to, like where to apply for a job or what should I do first. I just really hope I get it right, and
But aren't there any sort of like gateways or like certain government entities that kind of help people find pathways, or like career guidance or what do you say, agencies that kind of help budding pilots secure jobs or guide them into how they.
No,
There's nothing in the
such
country
thing, no.
that you know.
You just, not that I know of, but I just think that you have to go to their websites and just look for, openings. But there are, so when it comes to getting in, there are a few training academies that give you airline prep classes where they teach you about the interview and how to give the interview, and those people help you out.
Okay.
But again, yeah, that is.
Okay, well, that has been a really nice conversation with you, and I really do wish you all the best.
Thank you so
know,
much.
and you have impressed. I hope you continue making your parents proud, and Goa, because
Yeah,
it's
thank
quite
you
a
so
big
much.
news for us to have young people coming up and
Yeah.
taking Goa's name high. Okay, and keep watching Goa 365.